Fire is extremely important because it can give you protection. It can be used for location as a signal fire or signal smoke. It can purify water, and it can destroy the bacteria in your food. So clearly, fire, although it predominantly comes under the protection bracket, it's such a broad area, and it's so important for every other survival priority. So what I'm going to do is just go into how I make fire, a few different methods, and hopefully some people will leave me some comments and tell me how I can do things better, or say that I'm doing a good job. So cheers, I'll see you in a bit. I just want to take a minute just to talk about the fire triangle. A lot of people start making a fire and then they think, why is this fire not working? Well, there's quite a few reasons why it could be not working, but it's normally down to something to do with the fire triangle. Okay, obviously a triangle's got 3 sides, at least 4 of them. And if you haven't seen the fire triangle before, basically each side makes up a component of the fire. And the first one is oxygen. Clearly a fire can't burn without oxygen. Hardy's looking into the woods, don't know what he's seeing. The second one is heat. If there's anything taking the heat out of your fire, then that's why it won't be burning. And the third one is fuel. If you take away the fuel from a fire, clearly it's not going to burn. The easy way to think about this is different types of fire extinguishers. You've got a water fire extinguisher that takes away the heat. You've got a carbon dioxide fire extinguisher that would take away the oxygen. And you have you can take away the fuel, and that will stop the fire burning altogether. Okay, so when you're making your fire and it doesn't seem to be taking, have a think about the fire triangle and what kind of impact that will have on you actually getting your fire going. Chances are you'll either be smothering the fire and taking away the oxygen, or your wood's wet, which will be taking away the heat. So yeah, that's the fire triangle. So let's talk about tinders. There's a plethora of different types of tinders, man-made, synthetic, and also natural tinders that we can use. I'm going to go through a couple. It's not an exhaustive list at all, just 1 or 2 that I normally use when out and about to get a fire going. So let's take a look at the first one. I'm sure everyone's seen it before. Cotton wool. Most people carry it in their kit. Just normal cotton wool pads. A lot of people soak them in wax to make them waterproof, and split them in half. A little dab of Vaseline in there. Put it back together. Dip it in molten wax, which waterproofs it. Very good idea. Then you just break it open, and then either drop a spark in it or light it with a lighter if you're carrying a lighter. Okay, so that's the first one. A lot of people carry a first aid kit. Inside mine I carry the emergency bandage, which is basically a big stretchy bandage with a large pad in it. And guess what the pad's made out of? More cotton wool. More cotton wool that you can shake a dirty stick at. Okay, so that's an emergency bandage, sometimes called first field dressings. Yeah, most bandages will have some kind of pad in there that is flammable and you can use to make fire. For those of us that have one, some people have a dryer at home, and you're probably sick of emptying dryer lint from your dryer. Free tinder. Another one that we can carry with us is jute twine. This is waxed jute twine. You just literally cut a piece of that off, fluff it up with your knife, drop a spark on it, and it will burn away. They're the main few synthetic or man-made tinders that I'll use, onto a few natural ones. First one that we've got, good old birch bark. Yep, everyone's seen birch bark before. You just scrape on the white side, scrape all the outer edge, just scrape it off into a small pile in the middle, drop a spark in it, and that will get your fire going. I'll give you a demonstration of that in a little while. Next one is flatwood, or mayor sticks, what people call it. It's basically really highly resinous pine wood. You can see it's got a bit of a red tinge to it there. And all we'll do with that is, with the back of our knife or the blade again, just scrape against it, make a small area of almost like fluffy material, and then drop a spark on it, and that will light your fire. Next one we're going to look at, I found one earlier, just gone missing, never mind, is Dowdinium concentrica, or Dowdinia concentrica, which is basically crump balls, or King Alfred's cakes, coal fungus, lots of different names. And these basically just grow on the side of a tree, various different trees, rotten, usually dead trees, and you just pull them off, give them a tap. If they sound hollow and they're real lightweight, then they're good to go. The reason they're called Dowdinia concentrica, you can see that just about, it's made up of concentric rings, basically small circle, bigger circle, all the way out to the outside, and they will literally burn like pieces of coal, and drop a spark on it and it will smoulder away. It's another good way of transporting a fire from one place to another. When collecting these, what a lot of people fail to do is get the properly dry ones, and if they are slightly damp or slightly still alive, what they will do is spore, which is all this stuff here. One way you can combat that is to wrap it in what's it called, paper towel, and stick it away somewhere to dry out thoroughly, and all the spores will go onto the paper towel, not on the inside of your tin that you're collecting them in. And what you could do, if you have a pile of old rotten wood, maybe you've built a bug hotel or whatever you want to call them, drop those spores onto the dead wood there, and they may catch, and then you're harvesting your own cramp balls. Okay. So there's the main natural tinders that I would use. I'm now just going to cover the kindling and the 3 different sizes that we would usually use to get a decent fire going. First size, once we've got a flame going with our tinder, we're going to go for like matchstick sort of thickness. Probably, if you can get it around that sort of amount of sticks. Okay. After that, we're going to go for like pencil type thickness, probably a little bit more, twice the amount. And then lastly, about thumb thickness of sticks there, and this will gradually build the heat up in the fire, and aid us to get a decent fire lit. When you're actually going out looking for your different fuels and tinders and kindling, what you want is standing deadwood, and I'll show you that in a minute, what I mean by standing deadwood. But basically, if it makes a loud single crack, then that's the ideal. Yep. What we don't want is a crunching noise or a long sort of cracking noise, which I'll try and show you in a bit, which would tell me that the wood isn't quite seasoned and dry yet. So what do I mean by standing deadwood? Let's have a look. Okay, lots of trees in the area. Need to find one that's got a decent bit of standing deadwood. There's hardy. Okay, so you see this this small sapling here. It's clearly not alive anymore, but it's still standing. So that's what we mean by standing deadwood. It's still attached to the ground, but it is stood up. One single crack, and nice and dry inside. I don't know if you can see that all that well. So this is real good stuff. Okay, point to note, still a good foot of that sticking out of the ground. What we don't want to do is catch that with a shin later on, so I'm going to take it all the way down to the floor. Okay, so it doesn't present a trip hazard anymore. That's what I mean by standing deadwood. Clearly there's going to be stuff lying around on the ground. Has a decent crack, however it's wet on the outside. We can still use this for the fire, and I'll go on to show you this later on. For now what I'm going to do is collect the optimum amounts of kindling for us to start the fire, and then we'll have a go. This is what I've found. Matchstick thickness, pencil thickness, and thumb thickness. Let's talk about ignition methods for a moment. There are lots and lots of different types of ignition methods. There's a couple of common ones that I use all the time, or quite often. The first one, which most people are quite happy with, is the good old ferro rod or fire steel. Okay, the way I use it, the back of my knife, you see it's ground to a really good 90-degree edge. Okay, the way I use that is to keep this still and pull back on the fire steel or ferro rod, meaning I'm not pushing my knife into my tinder bundle and sending it all over the place, or the really nice, dry, carefully prepared tinder that I've got together. Okay, so when I'm actually getting a fire going, which we'll come on to actually lighting it in a minute, what I'll do, pull back on the fire steel to make sure that my tinder stays where it's supposed to be, like so. Another type of these is this one, which is a magnesium block and just a ferro rod on the back of it. The way that we use that is just to scrape a small pile of the magnesium into your tinder, and then with the ferro rod side strike that into the tinder bundle, and this magnesium will just create a hotter flame to get your fire going more efficiently. Another good method is the good old flint and steel, tried and tested for thousands of years. Although it doesn't create quite as hot a spark as the ferro rod, you need to get a decent sharp edge, because the flint will take off pieces of the steel, and it will flake off at about 800 degrees, and hopefully create sparks, so you can hold your tinder on the top of your flint, strike down on that, and then get an ember, like so, he says. Get an ember to then blow into a flame inside a tinder bundle. Another thing that we can use for this is an old piece of file, which will do the same thing, just slightly less effectively, as this has been hardened to the correct level to create sparks more efficiently. Okay, but if you are stuck, an old piece of file will work. Another tried and tested method is chemical firelighting. What we've got in here is potassium permanganate, something that I carry in my survival kit with me all the time because it's got so many uses. It's a really good survival fire lighter. Okay. All we need to mix it with is something glycerine based. This is just pure glycerine, and the chemical reaction will create a very fierce hot fire. It's quite a unreliable method. It is quite dependent on the temperature, the ambient temperature, moisture, etc. So don't use this as a primary method. These are chemicals that you could use for other things, so I definitely advise carrying them. And if push come to shove, you can use them to light a fire, and we'll look at that at some point later on. When using these methods, there are other things that we can add to our tinders to extend the flame and keep it burning for longer, to enable us to then create a better fire from that. A couple of things that we may carry quite often and don't realise that we can use. Quite often, perhaps not as big a tub as this, however, alcohol says there, sanitising gel 70%. Yep, 70% alcohol, and alcohol obviously burns very, very well. Lip salve, this is the army issue one. It's just basically a stick of Vaseline, which is petroleum jelly. Yep, clearly petrol burns quite well. So we can add that to our tinders to create a better flame. And one that's not so well known among many people, the good old Siloam light sticks, chemical light sticks. This one it's well gone. It's been cracked a long time ago, but the contents are really good for helping you get your fire going. We'll demonstrate these in a moment, just to see how well they actually help you with getting a fire going. Okay, so what we've got here, I've just made a small hearth on the floor just to isolate it from the damp ground, and I've got 4 pieces of cotton wool. What I've done with each is just open it up and tease out the fibres, just to try and extend the burn on the cotton wool itself. But what I'm going to do now is just add a small piece of the extenders that I went into before, and see how it gets on after dropping a spark in it. Okay, so the first one, we've got the Siloam there. Be careful when you take the top off with your knife. It does have a tendency to spray all over everywhere. So I'm going to put that on this one here, just a small bit. Next, a little piece of the alcohol hand gel onto this one here, just a small squirt. Okay, next up, the chapstick onto this one here, to work that into the fibres. And the last one I'm just going to leave with nothing on, just to see how long that burns for. Okay, I'm going to use the ferro rod with the back of my knife, and let's see how it gets on. Okay, so first up, the alcohol hand gel, then the xylem. Now the petroleum jelly, and lastly just the cotton wool on its own. Okay, so let's see how they get on. As you can see, the xylem is burning quite ferociously. The hand gel is burning with a very small flame, but it is burning the product itself. This one with no product on it has just gone out. The petroleum jelly is burning out, just about burning out now. The alcohol hand gel is, like I say, it's just wicking through the cotton wool now, and almost burnt out. Xylem still going, and you can see it's scorched all around it. I'd say that's producing quite a strong heat there. That's the xylem just giving up the ghost. And the petroleum jelly. Lastly the alcohol hand gel. Still going just about. Okay, so light's fading fast, so I'll try and hurry up. As you can see, I've created a small pile of shavings from the birch bark. What I'm going to do now is drop a few sparks into the dust there, and hopefully create a flame that we can start our fire from. Once I've created the flame, I'm then going to add the different stages of kindling in their sizes from smallest to biggest, and we'll get a fire going. Here goes. Okay, now we've got a flame. Like I said before, I'm going to light my candle. Now, if my flame goes out, I will have a flame to come back to. Now, got my real small matchstick size thickness stuff. All I'm going to do, cross that over, zoom out a little bit, cross that over in two sections, and then hold it to get the flame in there, not smothering anything, keeping plenty of oxygen flow in there, and then just laying it on top. We don't need to panic about blowing on the fire or anything crazy just to try and get it going. Just let it do its thing. Leave that on top of there like that. Okay, once that starts to take, we're then going to take our pencil sized and literally half of that straight on top. And again, be patient, just let it crack on. Okay, once that's going, we'll stick on the next lot and then progress on to the thumb size stuff. Toasty. What we're aiming to do now is just basically get a fire, so that I know you shouldn't leave a fire unattended. However, what we want to achieve is a fire that we can leave for 5 minutes without touching it or fiddling with it, and it will still be burning after that 5 minutes. Okay, I think that's going pretty well now. If I were to chuck the thumb size stuff on there, I'm fairly confident that that would be still burning after 5 minutes. So I'm more than happy that this is a good fire. Okay. If anyone's got any points to add or criticisms, or if they just want to add a kind comment, please do. If you feel the need to click the thumbs down button or dislike, please leave a message as to why, just so I can adjust videos in the future to make sure that you like them instead. Okay, thanks for watching.